Wow. And this is it. This is the second session of the fourth day of the Team Coaching Global Summit. And this is actually our third panel. We don't have another panel, so and make the most of it. And also, this is the only one session that it has to do with our business development, because it doesn't matter how much knowledge we get, how many tools we know, how competent we are. If we cannot bring that to the people, if we cannot bring that to the teams and to the world, as they used to say in my old coaching school, we are going to be the best kept secret. So today's panel is about setting goals for your team coaching practice. And we have there is a change in the panelists that you have seen for unforeseen circumstances. And we have the pleasure and honor to have with us Dr. Gilbert, I'm going to say it wrong, Fuggit?
Yes, Fuggit. Yeah, you got very close.
Okay. Mohammed Sharaf Eldin and Vijayalakshmi 𝗚𝗏. And there is one thing that all three of them have in common. We are going to call them differently than what you are seeing, or with a slight difference. So we will have 𝗙𝗵𝗵𝗿. He prefers the French accent. Sharaf and Vijay. This is 𝗚𝗶𝗵𝗺 𝗘𝗹𝗱𝗶, and today with us is Gillian Walter. You had the pleasure to be with her in the first day, the very first session that kicked off, and she has been speechless since then because he apparently gave it all to us. So we are going to try not to abuse more her voice and help her heal and fight it back. Feel free to say hi in the chat and add your location, where you are joining us from. We will have exactly 60 minutes together. Please keep your microphone on mute to avoid distractions. You can we have prepared some questions that we believe you will be useful for you and we will appreciate, but we are going also hopefully to have time to take more questions, more comments, so please use the chat for that. And let's meet our today's experts. So we have 𝗙𝗵𝗵𝗿, who has tremendous experience working with individuals and teams to create a strategic plan that will give measurable results and help you achieve success, with more than 20 years of experience in higher education and ministry leadership experience. Prior to working with Townsend Leadership Group, Gilbert was the Associate Vice President and Dean of Students at Concordia University, Irvine. And while serving in that role, he gained extensive experience leading teams in working through stressful situations and building a healthy culture. We also have the pleasure to have a multiple award-winning master coach and mentor with us, Vijay, with a background in consulting, human resources, and law, and experience across executive leadership, wellness, systemic, and team coaching. She has been honored as the Distinguished Coach in the ICF Coaching Impact Awards last year in 2024, and her work embodies passion, vision, and an unwavering commitment to coaching. Vijay also has served as president of the ICF Chennai, was the first recipient on ICF India Coaching Excellence Guru Award, and received highly recommended special recognition by the EMCC in 2023 and 2021. She's the founding volunteer leader of Coaches for You, an impactful pro bono coaching initiative. And we also have Sharaf. He used to be, it's like a conspirator, where we're co-leaders at the ICF's Global Team and Group Coaching Community of Practice. He is a leadership development consultant focused on helping leaders enhance their own relationships and those within their teams. A firm believer in the interconnectedness of all things, he advocates for growth through conflict resolution. He's leveraging his extensive organizational experience, designs customized learning experiences that are streamlined and purpose-driven, while also keeping an eye for future friends, upskilling, and reskilling needs. Sharaf currently serves as the co-lead of the ICF Global Knowledge Community. So thank you very much, everyone. I see there is a lot of action on the chat, and I think it's time to begin our conversation. And before, there is the idea of a journey, and that was from your idea, Vijay, like, what is my journey as a team coach? So let's begin with that. Let's begin from that journey. What were the first steps or the key steps that you took in the early stages to establish yourself as a team coach?
Is that for me, Katrina?
You can start, absolutely.
Okay, got it. So thank you. And I am very, very happy to be here with all of you today. And several of you are here on your weekend. So really appreciate that. And this word journey, and sometimes, and that's where I want to start. With team coaching, at least in my case, started far before I earned any credential, or I would even say sort of set up a practice in that sense. So my journey as a team coach actually started off as an internal team coach. And it's very interesting because it's kind of unconventional, but I'm so glad. I wouldn't want to change anything about it. In fact, my brush into coaching, and when I say coaching for this session, let's let it mean one-on-one work, and team coaching is team coaching. Actually, the seeds for that were laid in my work as a team coach. Most people I know, because I mentor a lot of coaches, they start off with one-on-one coaching. And then at some point of time, and especially in the last couple of years with team coaching getting its credibility from international bodies, make the transition there. But in my case, I think it was the reverse. And when I look back at that journey, the basics of stakeholder work, team development modalities, and we all know team coaching, there is a range of modalities, and that's the beauty of it. And importantly, systemic work. And that foundation, I think, got laid for me there because of this experience. Also, if you really look at for example, the ICF definition of team coaching, since a lot of, I believe a lot of people here are also ICF practitioners, by definition, in addition to being a highly creative process, which one-on-one coaching is, it's also a deeply reflective practice. So it sets you up as a reflective practitioner. And the reason I'm talking about all this rather than just jumping into how my practice grew or how clients came along, because I think the build as a team coach for me was the foundation of coaching itself. But I think importantly, the build happened with a lot of work from the inside out. And building all of these things in the way I showed up, not just as a full-fledged external practicing coach, but even as a leader in a corporate space. I think that was very, very important. The other thing is, as an early stage practitioner, the sources of team coaching, right? Your build actually happens and your growth actually happens by also learning to be comfortable with a range of modalities, whether it's consulting, facilitation, team building. So I think it's important to realize that team coaching spans all of this. So you building yourself as a practitioner across a range of that interconnected plate of work. The other thing I want to talk about is team coaching is far more intense, far more complex, in my view, at least, than one-on-one coaching. The depth, the breadth, and also the height of it sometimes can be quite intimidating, especially as an early stage practitioner. So I think when you really build yourself as a team coach, in addition to your one-on-one practice, or even before that, I think it can be very valuable in the long run. Another thing that comes to my mind is that if I were to very simply break it down, and I'm being simplistic here, team coaching, every engagement can, be more with a focus on either performance, development, or some of it transformative. I think learning to identify this as to where the focus lies, where do your stakeholders want it to lie, where does the system want it to lie, I think is very important. Because this is never told to you, right? Nobody, even with one-on-one work, nobody comes to you and says, hey, I want a transformative coaching engagement. In team coaching, it's far more complex because you're always working with an identity you can't see and feel. And yet that is your primary client. So when I look back at my own journey, I think learning to identify this with every little engagement, whether it's a very short engagement or a much longer engagement spanning years, and that identification is always done in a consultative way when you're scoping the project. And finally, I want to say the other invaluable thing that I think has worked across 2 decades for me with team coaching is almost every engagement, there are 3 E's that show up. One is engagement itself, right? Because team is always never one person. Sensing that level of engagement. The second E is sensing the emotions. Team coaching is a highly emotional space, even for the most stoic of groups. And the third thing is energy. Energy, not with individuals, but in that invisible entity called the team. So my journey, if I look back and to where I am today, the credibility, or I think the confidence that I feel today, which I didn't feel 20 years back, really comes from some of these builds that have happened from the inside out, not necessarily with a plan, but really happened organically through a lot of mistakes that I made and a lot of lessons that happened. I hope this helps as a context to my journey.
Thank you, Vijay. We are going to talk about mistakes to avoid. Today's session, we are not going to address questions as what exactly is team coaching, how it is different from the other modalities. This session is going to focus to help you establish business objective and grow your team coaching practice. And we have some coaches who already have established their own one-on-one practice and they want to start growing the team coaching practice. Or we have other experienced team coaches who want to scale that practice. We saw in the panel that we had on Wednesday that there is a future in team coaching, that there is much needed future also that. And we saw also that trends. And the question becomes, how do we become also relevant with all that? Before we jump to all this, Sharaf and Gilbert, anything about how you started your team coaching business?
Thank you for this introduction. I just want to say that I was put there. I didn't just start it because I wanted to start it, but it's because it happened. It's just very circumstantial. I was very into. I'm not a believer in developing people individually from the beginning, and I wanted to challenge this idea back in 2010, and I started this on a community level. I worked with the NGOs, working with the community, conflicts resolution, working with even personal relationships, interrelationships between couples. And I also authored a book that's called The Sacred Bond. It's about personal relationships. I also worked with organizations in the same way. I worked with I learned about cultural transformation from Barrett and with other tools that I actually integrated in my practice that was not focused on individuals. I always worked with the full team, the full, organization together. I felt that there is a context that lets people grow together to succeed in the purpose of this system. This started back in 2010, but by 2015, I had an identity crisis because actually I worked with I felt I'm doing the same thing with human beings, but in different contexts. I was everywhere. And I sat with my mentor. I told him I have an identity crisis. I don't understand why I do this, but I do it well. And actually my mentor just told me, but I don't understand, how to introduce myself to the market because it creates confusion to the stakeholders and to my customers. Some people see me everywhere, like I'm doing some community initiatives, working with social workers, working with NGOs, working with organizations, with leaders, doing assessment centers, doing development through facilitation and coaching. So what are you doing, Sharaf? And at this point, I learned about systemic work. The word systemic itself was missing. And this is when I got introduced to, much more deeper modalities with the process work, with the process-oriented psychology, and also with the work of Peter Hawkins and David Clutterbuck. And then I started identifying myself more that I want to get my money from organizations to this is where I want to focus my profession and doing what I like to do outside there without putting it in my personal branding. And this is since 2015 until now. I even joined the ICF team and group coaching community practice, and I was lucky to at some point of time later to co-lead with you, Katerina, and thank you for mentioning this in the beginning. This was maybe after 4 years from joining it in the era of 𝗪𝗏𝗻𝗺𝗶, who actually is the co-founder of Team Coaching Global Alliance. So I feel I was just made to be here, you know, like, so it's very circumstantial. For 6 years, I was just, you know, like doing things very intuitively. And then maybe the last 10 years, it's more structured. And I believe that because I was an early adopter in the region and it was not really mentioned here, I'm a lucky person. I can say that I'm more of a lucky person than anything else.
Yeah, it reminds me,
Yeah.
I remember it was a golfer who said, yeah, or it was a basketball player, I don't remember. Yes, I'm very lucky. I had practiced that thousands of times to become lucky the one time that it was in the competition. Yeah. Any insights from you, from your beginning, Gilbert?
Yeah, absolutely, Katerina. Yeah, so, I spent a lot of my time in the nonprofit higher education world, and so I led a lot of teams there. And I think since 2007, I was doing that for quite a while in a lot of different ways and bringing together a lot of different groups and teams. And then I really, to be honest, I realized I think I was doing some of it wrong a little bit. And so until I went to the Team Coaching Global Alliance, went through some of your training and worked with one of your Eva. Eva was one of the supervision folk, and then she really had an impact on me. And so that has helped change how I do team coaching, really, and how I impact teams and how I work with a lot of nonprofits, because some of these nonprofits, you would think they work really well together, but when you pull back the curtain, well, they need a lot of help. A lot of good people that finding ways to work together and get organized, right, and find common goals and to really move the organization forward. So that has been really, really impactful to me. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I get to be in this space now.
We are also glad that you're in the space and you share the wisdom also and the learnings with us. Not everybody has, there is Eva also. Not everybody has the same beginning. And everything that we are saying is going to be customized to you, to your own, to where you are exactly at your journey, to where also you have as an intention or as a goal to go there, to get there. Also, what kind of balance do you want? And this is very much inspired not only by while I'm listening to all three of you share your journey, but also the previous session. What balance do I need and where do I need it in exactly where as I grow my practice? And how you got into coaching also. Here's a funny story about me. I started with experience with teams. I didn't have experience working with one-on-one. So it was difficult for me to do the one-on-one coaching, but working with teams felt natural. Now, we said that, oh yeah, there is a huge future on team coaching. We see it as a trend also in the researches, in the surveys. And we say that, yeah, the world also needs it, especially now, moving forward. There is a concern that, the space is going to be crowded. The marketplace is going to be crowded. So the question for you is, how do you differentiate your team coaching services in a maybe crowded marketplace?
I can take a stab at that first. Sorry, Sharaf, you want to go? Sorry.
Go ahead. Vijay, yeah, please.
Okay, thanks, Sharaf. So I'd actually like to, look at that question a little critically, Katerina. And again, I understand, and that's why I love this summit, because we are all from different parts of the world. And to look at a global marketplace, right? The entire world is a huge marketplace, I think maybe a tad difficult. So every region, I would say different parts of the world have different challenges. Again, depending on how evolved or not coaching itself is as a profession. So so whatever I say, and the the way I look at this critically also, my question is that, is the marketplace crowded at all? My view is that we've just scratched the surface. And again, the disclaimer is that this is limited to my experiences and where I'm working. And honestly, even if I look at the number of people who proclaim themselves to be team coaches, much lesser. And I'm not just going by credential accreditation statistics. People who even put on their LinkedIn profile, for example, saying, hey, I'm a team coach. There is some hesitation to call yourself that. Again, probably because it's a lot more complex and evolved, like I said earlier. So I would, for one, challenge whether the marketplace is crowded. But that being said, and let's kind of assume that we want to differentiate irrespective of whether the marketplace is really crowded or not. And I would just say, here's where you need to think about your unique selling proposition, really the USP and what you stand for. And at a first level, I think the differentiation doesn't happen between you and other team coaches, because I really believe there's a place for much more than the coaches we have today. There is a lot more place. But I think the differentiation happens, and again, in my experience, between the coaching canvas, right? And within the canvas. So what do I mean by that? Usually there's always two ways you can look at it. And the greatest competition for team coaching comes from one-on-one work. So these are the clients who can either hire, say, if you really look at a top team, a CX CEO and the direct reports, and let's say top team coaching, you can either bring in several individual coaches for members of the team who want to really up their game, or working on specific, I would say, audacious goals. Or there is always a choice to get one coach in, or let's say two coaches in, to work with the team as a collective. So I think the differentiation happens here. So that's the clutter we need to cut through, because most people know one-on-one coaching. I think it's, at least in the corporate space, it's kind of clear. So really making the pitch as to the benefits of team coaching. And by the way, I'm not sort of saying one-on-one coaching is not important, doesn't work. I would say 70% of my practice is from one-on-one coaching. But I think the benefits over conventional one-on-one coaching, and to name some of that, the fact that it's holistic, it's a sustainable intervention, it's cost effective. So these are the things that I would talk about. And these are the factors that I would highlight and position, of course, in a consultative way, not trying to hard sell. And I think the other thing that differentiates, let's say, why somebody may want to choose X over Y, and this is, again, what I find is a great differentiator. While every coaching is partnership, team coaching is a heightened level of partnership, because you're also partnering very systemically with the whole system. So sometimes I hear from clients, and I know that's what brings in the difference, is that corporates or leaders are looking for that partner who can appreciate and manage not just the work on hand, but the culture, the vision, the organizational mission, the unsaid, the way the place works, and you need to bring in all those. So if you can be that partner who appreciates a lot more than just the goal on hand, I think that's a clear differentiator. And the last one, and I want to build on what both Sharaf and Gilbert have touched upon, is you need to be a partner who walks the talk. So many times I found the differentiation comes not from what fancy things I can bring to the engagement, but also that they want that credibility beyond your credentials, saying that, hey, have you been a leader? Have you seen this pain point? Have you led teams? Have you partnered with teams? Have you worked with teams? It doesn't matter whether you're a team coach or no. That wisdom and lived experience. And I'm not talking about historically, right? A lot of us would have been team leaders, and we would have worked with teams in our previous careers or avatars. But it's also about saying, today as a coach, I still work with teams, maybe not in a conventional corporate sense, but I'm not just like coming in as an external without understanding the pain. So somebody who can evidence and say, I still do this day in and day out. I think that adds that differentiation amongst, well, a crowded or not so crowded marketplace.
Thank you, Vijay. Before we go to Sharaf, there is a question from Susan about the virtual team coaching. We are going to get to that. So Sharaf.
Yeah, I'm seeing that there is a lot of abundance because by the number of organizations that exist, whether small, medium, or large nationals or governmental, non-governmental, there's always an opportunity to team coach. So by the number of people I teach team coaching, we create opportunities and educate the market on how to use team coaching. So I believe that as I'm in the place of giving and creating more team coaching and team coaches in the market, I'm getting more team coaching opportunities because it's reciprocative, as much as you give, as much as you supervise, as much as you educate, much as you walk the talk, as much as you will receive, because the market is still very far away from being well educated about it and receiving it. Most of us are looking at scarcity from the space of the official requests from large organizations or from government organizations on team coaching, which is still few at the moment in some markets. Yet the opportunities to create opportunities, for team coaching and educate the market about the benefits of team coaching and how it works. This goes by the number of teams that we have around the globe. So I believe it's countless, it's bountiful, it's very resourceful, and it's very there are plenty of resources, very abundant. So that's how I look at it. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharaf. And you made the reference about also nonprofit organizations. We also have the opportunity to offer that service to communities. And we had yesterday the session about how we can do that. If you missed the session, you will watch the recording. It was really useful. In 2019, for ICF Converge in Prague, we did a research. We were presenting with Maeve, and one of the results of the research was that the coaches wanted to do more of that work. The question was, one of the challenges, the obstacles, was of the funding, how to get paid. And here is another question that we can have in mind, that maybe the community or the organization, the grassroots movement, whatever it is, they don't have the funding, but it's like, who can sponsor that? So maybe it can become also the question to see who can fund that, who can be the sponsor. Gilbert, what are your key insights about how to differentiate ourselves?
Absolutely, Katerina. Well, I think of three things about differentiating yourself. So the first one is showcase, find some, as you're doing this, have some case studies or client testimonials, right, that have showed the impact your team coaching has done, right? People sometimes want to see that. They can be in a email or on your website and things like that, some testimonials or some ways they can contact folks. Others ways, make sure there's a clear value proposition. Align it with the ICF team coaching competencies. Make it very clear. Those team coaching competencies, they're pretty good, right? So we ought to use them, and make sure you can align that, show the ROI that can impact teams. And another thing, if you have one or create one, or maybe you align with one, right? Offer a distinctive, model, right? If you have a model that you use within team coaching, let them know the process, what you're doing, what to expect for all of this, right? You're also going to come up with goals. You're going to move the organization forward. Some things I do to kind of start with it, a couple of them things I do, right? I use a working genius. That's with Patrick Lencioni. I also use the Townsend growth model, right? Because I work in the Townsend Institute. And so both of those, I can talk to teams about it and say, hey, this is available. It might not be what we use with this. So I guess the fourth thing here, you get a bonus, right, is just be curious, because I think I've blown up more team coaching opportunities because I thought I knew what they needed instead of being curious and finding out what they actually need. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's what I think about.
I cannot help but make the reference, and I see also many of the CGAs here that are surprised when we ask them, hey, you have to make your own model at the end of the program. And it's like, why? And then they get it, because it is that you find your unique voice and you make your voice heard in that space. You have clarity of what is your voice, how you stand out also, what do you have to offer, and why also. So thank you for reminding us of the importance. There are marketplaces, there are markets, there are environments, there are cultures, countries or industries that they are more aware of team coaching and they will want it. And they will be also more educated in what to look for when they are going to, find a team coach. They will look for credentials, they will look for models, they will look for certification studies, etc., and case studies. And there are the cases that might not. They might go with local trends. I had actually such an example in a conversation with a potential client, and the CEO of the company said they had huge problems. He said, we have worked with the best in the market, with the best companies in the market, and they have all failed. So why you are going to make a difference? You don't want to hear my answer to that. But don't make these questions to a neurodivergent person who is very tired of masking. And those of you who aren't, you will understand. Now, what we would like also to understand is that we heard from you the importance of having a unique value proposition. So how do you find your unique value proposition? There, and maybe we can have some inspiration for those who are listening to us, if they don't have already theirs, how they can find it or how they can improve that. So how do you find? And Gilbert, let's start with you this time.
All right. So how do you find your unique value proposition? Is that was the one you're talking about there? Yeah. So that's a great question. I was just at the conference in Washington, D.C., in an Association of Talent and Development, over 10, 15,000 people there. And they were walking around and there was, we were exhibitors and so many companies are looking for team coaches, right? They're looking for, but they don't know it. Maybe they don't know exactly. They're, we need some type of train. We're a mess. We're disorganized. So to be able to find, what it is, you need to be able to define what you're kind of communicate your core values, who you are, what you're going to focus on, right? A concise, mission value statement reflects who you are. Make sure that's clear on your social media. Make sure that's clear on your website. So, because the worst thing you can do, right? You don't want people to have to think too much, right? If they have log in your website and it says one thing, your social media says something else. Well, then who are you really? And so kind of making your communication, concise with it. Also, find ways that you maybe even partner with like-minded other folks that, brands or other team coaches. And that can, I think the value proposition there, because then maybe you're able to align, you're able to do some different work that, you don't have to do that solo. That's actually where I see, I work with a lot of students and stuff as they're starting coaching, right? As they're starting this, it's very lonely out there. And so if you're working with a team, other like-minded coaches, you're able to accelerate your business and how you're going to start it. So don't think you have to be the Lone Ranger and go about it alone. I encourage folks to align with other similar-minded people that have focuses on how they want to grow.
Thank you very much, Gilbert. Sharaf and then Vijay.
Yeah, for me, it was it's not about team coaching specifically. It's one of the modalities. When you open yourself, when you open yourself for solution and actually solutions that, for me, it's culture transformation, for instance, and conflict resolution. And by necessity, it uses team coaching. So in a way, team coaching is part of a blended solution I offer in a learning path. So it's one of the modalities. It's one of the things. So I'm always focused on the value I want to bring to the organizations. I want to bring systemic change, and it happens through so and so. So always focus on what energy, what experience you have, what success stories you have, and focus on the value that you want to bring to your clients. And this is one of the tools and modalities that you are using, and always introduce it, and it will come in the flow very easily and with minimal resistance, without questioning what exactly is this. Like it's when you explain it within a framework of a solution, it comes in, it lands smoothly with others. So I would refer to what Vijay said in the beginning. always accept other modalities and be tolerant working as sometimes consultant, facilitator, developer, executive coach, and team coach. You know, I can and blend these two, maybe assessor sometimes. So it's whatever you learn and integrate and offer.
Thank you. Thank you. Just for clarity, I wouldn't like us to get into the details and create, and talk about that, because we can take hours to talk about the different modalities and avoid confusion. So yeah, that gives now the opportunity to Vijay to tell us how a multiple award-winning master coach who is already with her awards is making differentiates herself in the market, finds also her unique proposition.
You put me on a spot with that, Katrina, but I'll skip that bit. But yeah, so I really like what Gilbert and Sharaf have spoken about, and I'm also a big believer in the whole values, right? Your value proposition is can show up only when you embody your own values. So for example, and I'll just take a minute to talk through this. Courage is a very important value for me. Now, my clients need to see me coach courageously, whether it's one-on-one or whether I'm in a group or, even today, right? I'm just saying I'm showing up in this space. So I'm not trying, I'm not having it back in my mind, oh, I got to be courageous. No, it's not that. But you pick on, it doesn't have to be 5 things, right? It can just be 2 things that day in and day out, irrespective of who your audiences are, because you don't really know where your next client is going to come from. So it's so important to integrate your values with your value proposition. And I think the values come first, the proposition comes next. The other one is play. For me, the whole dimension, even the hardest, messiest, toughest of stuff has to be fun. It has to be exciting. There has to be energy. So I can't go in and do a morose sort of conversation. I mean, and if that's what you're looking for, then maybe I'm not your coach. So it's really important to own this very well. The tagline of my practice is play at full potential. It's not reach your full potential. It's play, right? So you got to feel that. And I think that's very important to understand. Close your eyes, 10 people, what would they really say? Okay, this is who she is, or this is who, and, I mean, you've heard it, many of you are experienced coaches. Who you are is really how you coach. So identify that, and I think the USP falls, it starts building. And let me just say this, right? There is a place for every kind of team coach. And as long as I think you fit into ethically what you're doing, you can bring in, I can bring in a very different flavor to the engagement that maybe Sharaf would bring in. And I think that's the beauty of it. So I would just encourage all coaches to just simply own who you are and build your practice from there. And it's very important to have that honest assessment of who you really are. And are you okay and comfortable to show up with that every time, every single time? So I wouldn't be too bothered about my proposition being really unique. But as long as my proposition can be congruent every time with my, I don't want my one-on-one in a room with just one client, me showing up very differently from who I show up with a leadership team, or let's say a community, and I lead community initiatives, right? That congruence has to be there. So selling proposition, not necessarily unique, but absolutely congruent would be my advice, if I may call it that.
Thank you very much, Vijay. And you mentioned the courage. Here is, if I can give my 2 cents, if you don't have the courage, find your right partner. You don't need to do that alone. And I have an example. You had in the previous panel, Lida Turai. So I was sharing with her my vision of one specific team coaching program. And we were just chatting and talking, walking around. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, do it. And I was like, we'll do it. And it was like, okay, we will do it together. And we just sit down and we just draft it. And then it was just to have a conversation with someone. And I said, hey, we created this cool thing. We made first the pilot. So you have here's another idea. You have your value proposition. You know what are your values, how that can transform organizations, teams, etc. Whatever it is that you have, right? Invite people, have a pilot, use it as a case study, prove the concept of what you have, and then have more conversations about it. So you don't need to start alone sometimes, and you don't need to start from the end, like directly from the higher client. Just prove the concept. Sorry for jumping in. There was a question about the remote teams, and then Sharaf, I love that you answered that in a way that, yeah, they are there. It's not if it is applicable, but it is, we do it. And it's not if it is effective, but how you can make it effective. As you have noticed, I am a person who feels very comfortable in the online space. So it can become easier for me than others. I understand that. But it's, as Sharaf said, it is a reality. We have remote teams. We are in global environments, and we have hybrid work. And that's actually the remote work, the hybrid work, together with other trends that we can name here, are something to keep in mind. And some of the other trends is, as we have seen, AI. We also have social movements, conflicts, human rights. Actually, the reason why one of our panelists is not here is because of the situation in Middle East and how it is affecting us, our work. So question, how do you adapt your business goals to global trends or social needs or circumstances? So how do you adapt your global goals to all that? Yes, Sharaf, I see you're ready.
Okay, so I guess it's normally what happens is that we are reactive to what the globe needs. Sometimes we open some dialogues through our social media about, like in talks like here, like bring some value through maybe some articles or, like, and it creates some discussions, it creates some shifts in how people look at things, systemically. And sometimes this comes in the action from others that they want this solution or want this thing for themselves. Yet mostly as team coaches, we are in service of what the globe needs. So I believe that it's better to be in the space of being open rather than dictating what you want from others, so setting goals is maybe it's developing ourselves as good tools. That's mostly, and being ready for the contexts that come up and appear, maybe creating some good dialogue that brings in peace and accepts more of the polarities that we have and reduces the tension and make better humanity and better communities to the globe. And this is what we are here for. Yet we cannot force it, like we're just always ready to support our clients to wherever they want to be, whenever it's ethically correct.
Yeah, Sharaf, it reminds me yesterday point that acknowledge the situation. Yeah. Excellent. Vijay, Gilbert, anything you would like to add?
I can just, I think Sharaf explained it well. The previous question on working virtually and things like that, right? I mean, around the time of the pandemic was when I think, even this notion that you can, do group work, and team coaching is group work in virtually in a very different room. I mean, you don't need to bring everybody in and, take them off to an offsite and put them in one room and switch off devices. We pivoted, we learned. And I think a lot of my work still continues that way. So I would just say being very perceptive, or for example, shorter sessions. If you find the leaders, or let's say people just don't have that kind of time, or let's say newer generations, you can break it down into multiple sessions, but much shorter sessions. So I think understanding, not just the pulse of your market, but I think some of these social shifts, and I would just say preferences, consumer preferences, I think is really important in the work we do. And we're learning, we're learning. And I think that's interesting because we're growing older. with every passing year, but, our clients may just be getting younger and younger. So I think it's really important as a team coach to keep yourself, curious and keep yourself ready to experiment. I would just say, it's so important to experiment in this. You'll make a few mistakes, but I think that's fine.
Thank you. It ties well with what we were saying also on Tuesday, the insights from the book with Lucy and Paul. Excellent. Gilbert, anything? Yes?
Yeah, well, Sharif and Vijay have said so many great things, and the virtual space has been one of big growth. But one thing when I think about the global trends and responding, social needs and things, one thing we talk about a lot in my coaching practice things is attunement, right? Sometimes you got to attune with the team, know where they're at, and then again, like they said, staying curious and pilot different things. Hey, let's try this. I think I see a need out here. I feel like I just got done doing a team coaching engagement with a person. We said, let's give this a try for 9 months instead of 12, right? And I think it went well. There were some things that flopped, right? We walked out there going, yeah, okay, we need to do this differently. But overall, we learned a lot. And I think not getting dug into you have to be perfect every time, but that you can give out, like you were talking about, Katerina, you're going to try some different things. And so as you're responding to global trends and things, you're not going to get it right the first time, but to get out there and just go for it. So, and attune to folks.
Absolutely. And we don't need to forget that might also be the first time, and for our clients also.
Yes.
It was the first time in remote work for many, in hybrid work. It's the first time working with AI for many. It's also the first time to be in spaces of conflict. For some, like our Lebanese colleagues yesterday, it's more, regular in their lives, but some is different. So even for our clients also, it might be the first time, and they are open to be in that space with us. So thank you for bringing that. It also, again, as I am being in all the sessions, I see the connections with everything that we are doing. And here is the connection also with one thing that Lucy was saying on Tuesday, the need for us to stay educated, also to be relevant with the world around us of what's happening. We are not coaching teams in a vacuum. And the need also to not only, as Giovanna also was saying on Wednesday, to adjust, but also to educate ourselves and also acknowledge what is. And even if it is not affecting us, it is affecting the people we work with and we want to serve. Oh my God, we have less than 6 minutes left. If I can ask you, if you can share one mistake that you have seen team coaches make when they are trying to grow their business. So this is, again, only about business development. If you have seen one mistake that you have noticed and you would like now to have the opportunity to tell, hey, I have noticed this mistake. It's better that you avoid doing that if you want to grow your team coaching business. What would that be?
It's very controversial for me. So
We like controversial.
yeah, it's just trying to push team coaching. Yeah, like it's never pushes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just shoveling team coaching. You should take team coaching. This is your medicine.
Yeah. The client doesn't care about coaching. They care about the results, what will be for them. Excellent.
Exactly.
Thank you. Brilliant.
So can I just add on to that? Huge plus one, Sharaf. Never market too hard. It will come back to you in a way that you don't want. And in marketing, we talk about push and pull, right? All coaching has to be pull. That's my personal belief. But I think team coaching has to be an even greater pull. The readiness is so important. While you can sense it, it's not about a team being uncoachable, right? There's a difference between uncoachable and readiness. The readiness factor is so important because you're not talking about one person being ready. You're talking about like maybe 8, 10 more people being ready. It's so much more harder. So I would just do a big +1 on that. And I want to take the liberty of adding one more, Katrina, is that another mistake is introducing tools too early. Yeah. You go there and say, okay, I'm here, let's do a diagnostic. No, you build your trust slowly, steadily. You're an outsider, right? Remember, you are not part of the team. To be able to, again, in one-on-one, if building trust takes time, in teams it takes much longer, because everyone's always double guessing, right? Did the HR hire you? Did the CEO hire you? Whose friend are you? And the assumption is that you're going to take sides. So don't go into tools and assessments too early, please. I think the greatest tool we can take in is our complete presence. And just observe, just be a fly on the wall, soak it all in, and you won't need any tool in 8 out of 10 cases. And if you still do, ask permission. And again, readiness, right? The time when you introduce that tool is so important. Otherwise, the flip side is you could be seen as, let's say I'm Harrison certified, for example, right? That I'm pushing my Harrison agenda in. No, I don't need to do that. Yeah. As relevant always. Thank you.
Yeah, Vijay and Sharaf, these are great points. One thing I think about though, as we're doing it too, to kind of add on to that, is when you're trying to be everything to everyone, right? When and people, well, who exactly is Gilbert? Why would I want to go see them for team coaching? What does he really do? And so, because sometimes what you see out there, at least when I go on LinkedIn, you get bombed constantly with funnel marketing ideas, right? You got to have an email list of 10,000 people to do all this. Well, you don't, right? And so some of these mistakes, you're going to be nice, shiny things out there that you can spend a lot of money on that will absolutely not help your team coaching practice. And as Sharaf said, you're right, trying to push it so much, and Vijay. And so I encourage you, think about what your value proposition is, and think about who your team coaching client might be, what you might want to work with as you're contracting and things. So those are things that I see coaches make mistakes on.
Thank you very much, Gilbert. We had advices from the previous panels on their specific topics. It's always, important to have advices also of how do we do when, at the bottom line of the business of us. I was inspired by Neil's session before with the arc of nearly everything, because the question mark. And it's like, okay, if we are at this spot in the mark where we are flourishing, what happens in our business? Like, what is the balance between growing the business and stay true to our standards, for example, or serving the client and also be true to our core values, the mission? Or also, I don't know about you, but I keep receiving messages on LinkedIn about growing my business. And when I said, no, I'm okay, thank you. It's like, no, I'm okay, I'm well. We want more leads. No, please. But it takes also an understanding and courage, and sometimes escaping from some stereotypes or external pressures to be always there, or what it means to be successful also. Now, unfortunately, we are reaching the end of the session. Before we go to the last question, I would like also to share with our wonderful participants here where they can get in contact with you. We are going also to share this in the chat, and the slides will be also sent out with the recording, so you will have them, of course. So feel free to reach out to our wonderful experts and panelists. And technology, QR code, just scan it. And or call him our office hours. I'm sorry, Gilbert. I can't
you can call me anytime. Yeah, it's just fine. Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you at 2 a.m.
I just won't be there at my office. Okay. Before we close, what is one word of wisdom that you wish to share the team coaches? And again, our focus is about the business development of the team coach. What is one word of wisdom that you would like to share and stay with them?
I'll go because the other two are real smart. So I better get it in quick because yeah, they'll look bad. So, when I think about it, the strength of a team doesn't come from being the same, right? So it comes from learning how to thrive in the differences. So as a coach, your role is not to fix people, but to create the space where they can see, hear, and grow together as one entity.
Thank you.
I believe the most important lesson I learned from supervision was about, like the state of resistance, and how to create more flow with the energy of the team instead of resisting, and trying, when you find resistance, this is a mirror of who you are and what you're bringing to the team environment and dynamics. So just acknowledge, humble yourself down, and, accept the flow of the team and start working on your inner judgments. Observe who you are in this state. Yeah, this is the most important.
I'm going to use that also for your business development. If you see your own resistance in something, in how you are as a business person in the business and practice of team coaching, observe that. Excellent. Vijay?
Yeah, I would just, word of wisdom will be, many of us in this call are experienced one-on-one coaches. We may have two parts to our work, and team coaching may or may not be there. I would just say team coaching, it's important to go back and always question your why. Why am I a team coach? Am I doing this because it's, the latest set of credentials people, everyone's got a team coaching, right? I mean, everyone's into team coaching. Or is there something more deeper? And constantly examine that, because this is very, very intense work. And work that you can be very messy, leave you far more drained. So just go back, because what you do and then how fast, because then that will then really also affect how much you're investing into building your business or your brand. And you may just want to take it slow, test the waters before you jump all in. That's what I would say.
This is fantastic advice. Thank you very much, Sharaf. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, 𝗙𝗵𝗵𝗿. For some reasons, it goes more natural. He prefers that way. Excellent. And thank you everyone who stayed so much engaged in the chat. A huge appreciation to all of you. And thank you, Jillian, who were here with us today, although your voice had its own challenge. So feel free to sign up also for our last sessions that we have next week. One is with Eva, who is with us here. And as we are preparing to close the session, any key takeaways from you, any moments of insights, anything you would like to share, please use the chat. And it has been wonderful to have you all. The honor was all ours. And thank you for dedicating your time again, Gilbert, Vijay, and Sharaf. Much appreciation.
Thank you, Katerina, for the excellent facilitation of Gideon, for your presence, and thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you for putting this all together, Katerina,
Please.
for having this vision and making this happen. And I just really am honored to be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is such an incredible effort. And, I think this is the inaugural season of the Team Coaching Global Summit, if I'm not mistaken. So, may there be many more every year.
Yay, I'm into that. More coming up on Monday. So have a rest for the next 2 days, and we will see you all for conflict and sun models. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. See you in a few days. And thank you again, Vijay, Sharaf, and Gilbert. Bye. And
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Then bye-bye. Thank you.